Hi, I'm Robert Strand, Executive Director of the Center for Responsible Business. Each semester we partner with business and thought leaders to bring a series of events around topics of corporate responsibility and sustainability here to UC Berkeley. I'm here with Roger McElrath, Associate Director of BSR. Roger is one of our panelists at the Peterson series lecture here today at Haas. Roger, we're here at a business school talking about fair wages today. Tell us, why should companies get involved in doing what the government is supposed to be doing? And that is setting a reasonable level of wage for a decent standard of living.
I think there are two approaches. One is that the governments have not been able to maintain their minimum wage rates at what would be considered a living wage almost across the board around the world. So the theory behind minimum wages is that they would provide a living wage. In most countries, that is not the case.
Okay, so government should be doing it, but they're failing at doing it.
Many governments are failing at doing it. Not all, but many are. So that's one issue, is that the regulatory process has not kept up with developments in many aspects of corporate organization, such as globalization, things that have had an impact on wage levels around the world. Governments have not adjusted their policies to account for not only inflation, but also different kinds of wage setting structures.
Okay.
And I think that's one issue. And the other is, from a corporate perspective, to be a responsible company, you should be seen as paying wages throughout your supply chain and also to your own employees that allow your workers, the people producing products, to actually make or have a decent standard of living.
So Roger, paying fair wages is a very complicated thing for managers to consider. Can you demystify this for us a bit? What are some of the steps that companies need to take or things they need to consider when implementing a fair wage program?
The first thing is it has to be driven from corporate headquarters. The companies that we deal with are major multinationals, and if it's not driven at the corporate level, that's not going to get done.
So that commitment from the top.
Commitment from the top is critically important. That usually is manifested in some kind of a policy statement about their desire or commitment to pay living wages. Then it's really not that complicated an issue. The most difficult thing is actually calculating the living wage. And there are a variety of methodologies for doing that. There's always folks who are going to disagree with a particular living wage number, but our approach is one that is flexible in the sense that we calculate a living wage and then negotiate it essentially with country operations or even narrower city operations or regional operations in a particular country. So the management process internally is fairly simple. It's no different than what a typical human resource process is for setting wages across an organization. That's typically what it is included in, is that process for setting wages.
At the Peterson series, we teed up the conversation today on living wages. Do you see that as an important thing for us to tee up such conversations within the business school?
Absolutely. I think it's a critical issue that often is neglected. The only people that study wages are typically economists, and I don't think business folks or business students tend to think about the whole wage setting process other than when they get their first salary offer at the end of their program. And it actually is fundamental to business. What is more fundamental than setting your wages? Because in almost every industry, the labor component is a large component of cost. And it varies by sector, obviously, but in even the highly capital-intensive industries, labor is an important component. And the question is, how do you price that fairly for both the company to make a profit, society to develop, and workers to have a decent standard of living?
Roger, thank you so very much for taking the time today to discuss the important topics of living wage and also being a speaker as part of the Peterson series, our flagship speaker series here with the Center for Responsible Business.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm very proud to be part of it.